welcome to the show. Tonight, we are the K9s for Veterans TV show. I'm Jillian Jans, I'm your host tonight, and this is my husband, Jonathan. We will be bringing you some different topics. Mike couldn't be with us tonight, but we say hi to him. Hi, Mike.
Hello.
We're going to be talking tonight about two different things. One of them is relating to a service dog, and the other is kind of a follow-up from last week if you had watched the show about the depleted uranium and the toxicology and the
Ferris doctrine.
The Ferris doctrine and stuff, but that'll be a little bit later in our show. First, we're going to start off talking about this. It's a situation with a service dog out of Las Vegas that I was made aware of by my neighbor, who is friends with the woman who we're going to speak with in a few minutes on the phone. Her name is Jackie. She has a guardianship over a service dog named Murphy. He was the service dog for a veteran, and he was lost, unfortunately, in December of last year when he was chasing after the ambulance of his veteran when he was being taken to the hospital. The dog has been missing since then, and one of the veteran's dying wishes was that he have the dog with him as he passed, but unfortunately that was not possible. Jackie has the guardianship of Murphy, but unfortunately they haven't been able to find him, so she started a campaign on Facebook. It's called Bring Murphy Home, and she will tell us a little bit more about that when she calls in here in a few minutes. I told her to call in at 6:05, so it's 6:02. That being said, we're going to move over to our other topic for the moment while we wait for her to call in. And we're going to go back to the discussion about the Ferris doctrine and the military medical misdiagnosis, malpractice and everything. To just review, the Ferris doctrine was, you want to take that, John?
It was put in place in the 1950s and essentially says that the military service members cannot sue the government or the military for really any reason.
But they can't sue them because of illness or injury that
medical malpractice
comes from their service to the country. I'm going to show a video right now of what kind of got me sparked on this topic for this week. And here we go.
Ever been called to testify. I wish it could have been under different circumstances. I was selected by the Army Special Forces group to attend Special Forces Underwater Dive School, Combat Dive Qualification Course, CBQC. Because of my previous gunshot wound, it was mandatory that I could not attend this school without having a CT scan done of my lungs to ensure the safety of myself and other divers. So the imaging was done.
That's me. No, sorry.
Physical went forward, and I was cleared in January. A civilian had reviewed my scans and cleared me to go, and I went down to school. Until about 6 months later, I found out that a Womack Army doctor failed to identify an over 1.5 centimeter large tumor located in the upper right of my lung. I was wheezing, coughing, had difficulty breathing. Anytime I'd lay flat on my back, I felt like I was suffocating, and the weight on my chest was unbearable. I had also begun coughing up a bit of blood at this time. And typically, I'm not one to complain. My training doesn't allow it. We continue to work without complaint. May 22nd, I was back into the ER. This time, I was calling my wife. I called TRICARE. I called the Army hospital. I begged and begged and begged for somebody to see me. I knew something was wrong at this point. And I had a biopsy done on my lung. I was woken up to my wife crying and learning that I had, at the time, stage 3A lung cancer. I eventually did a PET scan, and the PET scan revealed that my cancer had been metastatic and had spread. It now was in the left side of my neck and my lymph nodes, my spleen, liver, ilium crest, spine, and right hip joint. Beginning on January 22nd, 2018, I was diagnosed stage 4 terminal. The failure of the military's doctor's gross negligence and failure to detect my cancer when it was first noted on the CT scan done on me in January 2017 is a mistake that allowed an aggressive tumor to double in size and robbed my life and my life of my family without any recourse due to a 1950s Supreme Court case created the Ferris Doctrine. Lastly, I want to say that this does affect me, obviously, but my children are definitely the true victims, along with my wife. The hardest thing I have to do is explain to my children when they ask me, this doesn't make sense, how is this happening? And I have no good answer to give them. And I say that's why I'm coming up here, to help convince these folks in Congress to change this.
And we're back. We also have our caller back, which will be Jackie. So we're going to be switching back and forth. Fair warning, John and I both have ADD, so this is kind of just a natural conversation for us.
How horrible is that, though?
Okay.
All right, she's on the line. Here we go.
And
Jill's going to find the right button to hit.
and we're going to, and hi, Jackie.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Not bad.
I'm so sorry to be talking under these circumstances, but can you tell us about Mr. Collins, the veteran, and how you met him?
Yeah, sure. Morris Collins has been my neighbor for about 5 years. We became friends. We would talk, and he would let me borrow tools from him and exchange stories, and we just became really close.
Okay, can you tell us about how Murphy went missing?
Yes, so on December 6th, Mr. Collins was rushed by ambulance to the hospital. He had collapsed on his kitchen floor. He was bleeding internally. So when the paramedics brought him in the ambulance, Murphy was left home with Mr. Collins' mentally ill son, and somehow he got out, or the son let him out. We're not really sure exactly what happened. But when Murphy did get out, he chased the ambulance.
I'm so sorry to hear that. Do you know where the general geographic location was that he was last seen at, or an intersection?
Yes, so he was last seen about 3 to 4 hours after he went missing, after he got out of the condo. And this is in Las Vegas, Nevada. And he was seen in like a shopping complex
Okay.
on Asa Blanca and Durango.
Okay. And you're his legal guardian, correct?
Yes, I am now his legal owner.
And how did that come to be?
Well, at the end of December, Mr. Collins was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, and the doctors given him about 4 to 6 months to live.
Ugh.
So in this time frame, he did everything he needed to do legally, with wills and trusts and everything
Yeah.
like that.
Made his
And
arrangements.
he trusted me with Murphy and knew I was doing everything that I could to find him. So we
That is
called
wonderful.
the chip company. Yeah, we called the chip company and got me on there. So
Okay.
he made sure that when I did find Murphy and after he passes, that he will stay with me.
And have a good home and somebody that cares about him the way that he did, I'm sure.
Yes, absolutely.
That probably gave him peace. Now, can you tell us what kind of dog Murphy is?
Yes, he is he's now 3 years old.
Okay.
He
Oh, he's
turned
only
3
3.
August
Do we have a
10th.
picture of the dog?
Yeah. He is a male Belgian Malinois.
Okay.
He is unneutered, and he is microchipped.
Okay.
And we believe he was wearing a shock collar
Okay.
when he went missing.
Gotcha. And you have a Facebook page set up, right? For
Yes.
Okay. Can you give us the name of the Facebook page?
Yeah, it's called Bring Murphy Home.
Bring Murphy home.
There's a
Bring Murphy
beautiful-
home. Okay. And
There's a beautiful picture of him on the profile picture.
there's a beautiful picture of him on the profile picture. So
Okay.
that's and we are asking our audience and viewers and everybody to share and appreciate any information that this can generate, and hopefully I will say some prayers and everything. Hopefully you can find
Thank you.
Murphy and bring him home.
I've got a
Thank
quick
you.
question for you before we take. What steps have you taken to try and locate him so far?
So the first thing I did, which was on December 7th, the day after he went missing, because I found out December 7th that he was gone by the sun. I immediately went to social media. I started posting on all the lost dogs of Las Vegas. I started putting out flyers all over my complex and within probably a mile radius of where he went missing and where he was last seen, because he was last seen that same afternoon. Somebody took a picture and posted him, and I saw that the morning of the 7th, and I just went crazy. I actually left work, drove all the way back to where he was last seen. We've had 9 billboards across Las Vegas.
Oh, wow.
I've been on
9 billboards?
all-
Wow.
Yes. The company Clear Channel actually donated it to us. They were up for about 2 weeks. We started with the local news interviews on December 21st. We probably did over a dozen interviews for the news channels.
It seems like
And,
you've done everything and anything possible. I mean, that's way more than even I would think to do, and we
Yeah,
ourselves have a service
I mean-
dog, so I'm so sorry that
Yeah.
this...
You know, while he was still alive, we knew he didn't have a lot of time left, and this was my life. I was taking care of Morris. First he was in a home hospice, and then he came home, and then I moved in with him and bringing him to doctor appointments and taking care of him, and at the same time I was working. I'm a full-time mother, and this
goodness.
was my life, and I'm okay with that. This is what I wanted to do. I wanted Murphy to come home before he left.
We can tell you're so dedicated.
Yes, absolutely.
That's
And I'm so heartbroken that this happened, but hopefully this can help you in some way, shape, or form, and we want to thank you for calling in tonight and
for all your support and taking care of
Thank you.
a veteran that was...
Thank you,
yeah.
guys.
an injured veteran.
So,
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate you having me on. Thank you.
thank you very much, Jackie. Have a good night.
You
Okay, and we are back to the other topic, the Ferris Doctrine and the military malpractice. So let's see here. The Department of Veterans Affairs in 2014, Dr. Singh, is that what we said? Yeah. Of the VA at Houston, he authored a study published on May 5th of that year, which estimated approximately 5% of outpatient diagnoses are erroneous.
You know, there's from what I'm hearing, and this is just talking with friends that are currently getting out of the military and those recently separated, but even PTSD is getting diagnosed in individuals that have never deployed. They're getting service members are getting out of the military, and because of the similarities in all the anxiety of getting out of the military,
So the
they're getting diagnosed with PTSD even though they had never deployed during their entire
Service
career, and are getting compensated in the VA for PTSD.
but more importantly, they're getting treated for something
And
that they don't
right,
even...
and they're getting.
They're getting the
Yeah,
kind of care that
they're-
people with PTSD need, but unfortunately, a lot of the time aren't getting, and at the same time, it's confusing the whole, it's mucking the whole thing up, essentially.
But it just goes to show that the misdiagnosis of
Right. Because there's what's called the what is it called when you get out? Like it's transition anxiety, like it's separation anxiety. Oh, no, that's not it.
no, that's not it at all. Not
That's
even
what
close.
that's what the kids. Never mind. But no, it's called something like where like when you're getting out, like there's a 6-month period where it's common to have
Right,
PTSD
you-
symptoms because you're getting out of having a life that is dictated to you and for you by somebody else, and then going to a life that is your own to decide how to do and whatnot. And it's a little bit, I'm sure a lot
Right.
of it difficult, but I have no.
What I'm saying is there's the doctors know this, and yet these guys and ladies are still getting diagnosed
Incorrectly.
with post-traumatic stress disorder.
And now that's the
And that's just one quick example off the top of my head. Now,
oh, and that's talking about military doctors, right? Or are you talking about VA doctors? Or both?
you know what? I'm not sure if that was DOD or VA.
Yeah, I myself am wondering just because I know that. So this was done by the VA, So, and we have personal experience with the VA stuff,
Oh.
but now we're talking about the DOD, which that's also what the video was about. So we have it on both ends. You have the DOD end, doctors that are misdiagnosing and incorrectly diagnosing things, and you have the VA who is also doing their part to equally do the same thing.
Right. And just to clear up, individual does not need to be in combat to suffer from PTSD, but that's just the most, for the military, that's the most common way of getting PTSD.
Especially the kind that you're talking about,
right.
the kind that they're treating.
And the DOD and the VA have no communication.
And let me be
that's-
clear on this really quick. We are not saying that everybody who is part of these systems or these programs are incompetent or ineffective or bad at whatever it is. We actually have very great doctors. We've seen wonderful people, and we like a lot of individuals that are working at these places, but essentially as an entire functioning part of
As a whole.
right, it's an entire functioning part of our system when it comes to veterans and military members. It's failing, and it's failing terribly, and it's not a disappointment anymore. It's
Expected.
exactly, and that's not okay. I'm not okay with that. Are you okay with that? Because if you are,
You're wrong.
right, you're probably watching the wrong show.
But
Okay.
the DOD and the VA don't talk to each other. So even though, me personally, I spent about 9 months in, while I was still active duty Marine Corps, getting treatment for my TBI and PTSD and some other physical issues after the blast, it was 9 solid months, 5 days a week going to doctors, and all of this paperwork, all of these doctor appointments
His medical
that I had
records
done.
from the military are literally like come from just the Marine Corps. It's that thick of a paper thing. Like,
Then once you transition out and go to the VA does not even look at that paperwork. You have to start everything over at the very beginning,
from scratch.
and it is.
It's got to be maddening for.
It sets you back quite a bit.
Right, and you're not talking about a kind of talk therapy where you're going over the problems in a way that's going to help you think about them and address them in a new, different way.
Mm-hmm.
You're just rehashing the same situation and the same pain and problems
Right.
that have been
It's-
talked about and what you thought addressed and moved forward from,
Right.
but now it's just all at the start again. So then you're influenced by the opinions of the doctors and the attitudes of the
not
doctors.
just that,
and,
because they didn't review your old files. They start you off on it's just
Medications that are-
a replica of your starting when you were when the DoD was starting up your medical work. So the meds that I was on when I got out of the Marine Corps, I was on 17 meds.
True story.
And I had been on and off dozens that they tried and didn't work, and they finally, they narrowed it down, and these 17.
Narrowed it down.
Yeah, these 17 that I was on were tried and tested, and that's what seemed to be working. The VA didn't care about that. They started me back on those dozens of meds that I had already tried before that didn't work.
And you probably didn't remember because he has, for those of you who don't know, he has a traumatic brain injury, and that comes with short-term memory loss.
What?
So, I'm sorry, you have a traumatic brain injury. The amount of healthcare, I can't read it that fast, sorry. Do you want to try that, John?
So
Go ahead.
the amount of healthcare personnel turning over could be aggravating the problem. New
Okay.
doctors often mean starting the process over again, and that is
A bonus problem, I think.
right.
Like,
That's the little gravy on top, because
yeah, I mean,
all the
these are all
doctors
teaching hospitals, so.
right. The doctors all started. They'll all start at the same place with the same things and go over it again, and it seems rarely do they look up your medical records.
As I was at a WIC office today, signing up our son for some WIC, and the
Wicca, Wicca.
nutritionist I talked to used to work at the VA. She interned at the VA, and I had mentioned something about the broken system, and she's like, "Oh yeah," she's like, "I couldn't have worked there anymore." She's like, she's like, I wanted to help veterans. She's like, but it just seems like the system itself wasn't, and that's just so disheartening when it comes from other civilians, like, who are just trying to do the right thing, are just trying to help, and the system's so broken that even they can't. So then who's left to take care of these guys and girls and women and people? Like, it's not something that they're seeming to care about because of things like, oh, I don't know, the Ferris doctor?
That's that's something different altogether.
I'm just saying that I'm sure that that has a effect to some extent on the way that everything has played out over the years, because you have the other studies that estimated around 750 billion is wasted as a result of misdiagnosis. Holy guacamole, that's a lot of money. Washington Post 2017, more than 20% of patients who sought a second opinion at one of the nation's premier medical institutes has been misdiagnosed by their primary care provider. Oof.
20%.
The article was referencing a study published in the Journal of Evaluation and Clinical Practice. And then 2015, the National Academy of Medicine, most people will receive an incorrect or late diagnosis of at least once in their life. And, you know, I feel like...
Yeah, that's understandable.
Right, like there's...
on some
you have
level.
certain error, like...
Right. I could see if you got something like
Especially
mistaken.
mental health stuff. Like, that's easily, in my opinion, mistaken. Like, when you have, like, anxiety, when you have depression, when you have PTSD, when you have bipolar, when you have OCD, all of these things are, like, concurrent when it comes to the way that they present themselves. What?
Nothing.
What?
Co-current. But you need to see a specialist, and in order to get to a specialist to be actually diagnosed with any of these things, you have to go through your primary, and you have to go through other doctors to get there. So along the way, if you're not seeing a specialist, somebody could say, "Yeah, that's looks like this to me," and there's your diagnosis. Well, not really. You go see the specialist, and they say, "Oh, well, yeah, I could see why somebody that doesn't specialize in this would think that, but really it's this."
How many diagnoses would you say, or diagnoses?
There you go.
Have you been
Oh, God, so
fortunate
many.
to receive
Oh,
over
so
the
many.
years? And with the VA, you have to have 3 of them that are...
You have to have 2 concurrent or
What was that?
concurrent.
Okay,
See what we did there? We
okay.
threw an N in there.
Oh, sorry. My bad.
And I've seen 6 neurologists for the same problem. 3 of them agree that yes, this problem is there and exists. 3 of them disagree, but because there have been no 2 concurrent diagnoses, nothing has been done, and it's been over 10 years, somewhere around there.
Well, we've gotten some things done. That's not true.
Yeah,
Like you're
okay.
you're forgetting that this is the narrative from when we first had started in and around coming up to Hines, which was now around 7 years ago. So we've tried a few different kind of things, and some things have been working a little bit better, but it's because of the advocacy and the role that I've played in his healthcare. And it wouldn't be that way if I wasn't here, because there's nobody advocating for him. Now, that's not to say that there's not in the VA system somebody who's supposed to be doing that, because there's the, what do they
Patient
call it?
advocate?
No, not the patient advocate. It's the people who deal with TBIs, the PTSD, the Iraq.
Counselor.
They have a special person that is dealing with the OIF, OEF cases.
Coordinator.
Yeah, and it was for the people like my husband who have PTSD, TBI, and then other things. But the problem is those caseworkers have to be so overwhelmed.
They're so overworked.
And it's not up to just 2 or 3 people. You have to have a system that's easier for the veterans themselves to navigate through, so it's not a hassle that's disheartening and leading to extra suicides. Like, look at these people who are so desperate that they're coming to the VA asking for help, and the VA is turning them away, so then they kill themselves in the parking lot. They're trying to be heard. Not just for themselves either. Most of them are trying to be heard so that they can have an effect and help the other veterans that they served with, other service members that they were there with, that they know are experiencing the same thing. And this is the only way that they see doing it is possible. And that's just heartbreaking. What do you think, John?
I'm just a lot. I'm thinking a lot, but
I'm thinking of that guy that was on the video that we watched a little bit ago, and his poor wife and kids. Like those are the we talk about bonus things all the time. Those are the bonus victims.
Right.
Like I don't. He says that he's not affected in the video, but he is. Like he absolutely is. He shouldn't have to suffer like that. He doesn't deserve that. And none of the people who have served our country.
none of our military,
No.
current or former, should have to
Deserve-
suffer like this.
Exactly.
And
And people
if-
in general don't deserve that. But I mean, essentially, our show is about veterans specifically, and
And if they are suffering and there's a clear medical malpractice issue, then
They should be able to
should
take-
absolutely be able to take that to court or be
hold
able
people accountable.
exactly hold people accountable. At the end of the day, this guy's life gets cut short because somebody missed something, and now
Somebody wanted to get out of work early, or wanted to.
we don't know why.
You know, it's.
but
I can speculate.
it's-
Why not? I mean, that's the only thing I got left is speculation. So I might as well
you
just
know,
do that.
His poor kids and wife, now they're left to
Pick up
pick up the pieces. Yeah, it's horrible.
It really is.
I would like to see this Ferris doctrine change.
Well, and he tried to. The thing was that the video didn't say is he tried to go to Congress and the Senate and like talk to all of them.
He went to 9 senators.
And he got to
Or
talk
9
to
congressmen.
to one staff. That was it. Mm-hmm. And
Nobody would see him.
no, you know he's
doesn't
not,
matter.
He doesn't rate.
Right.
So they're not getting funding from him. So, but we had a wonderful show today. Thank you for listening to our random topics. But
That's how we do.
we hope you guys all have a good night, and we'll see you in a few weeks.